So what is the outlook for this very popular stock in the US market called Apple, stock code AAPL, right? One of the most actively traded stocks in the US market, and of course the largest market cap by value as well, right? So in this video, we'll be looking at Apple, all right, and where are we right now? Where can we potentially head to before some selling can come back again? And how does it look like on the charts, right? So stick with me all the way to the end of this video whereby we'll dive into the charts, what has happened over the past few months, why I still like this company. And in fact, we've covered this company a few times for some of my trainings, for my members as well, paid trainings. And essentially, it still looks good, right? And we will even dive into the system that I have to see what it says, if there are any bullish or maybe even bearish signals that have came out over the past few months, and what does it say right now, right? So if you like this video, go ahead to give me a like. That would definitely help out the channel. Thank you so much for doing this. So let's dive into the charts of Apple right now. Here is Apple trading at about $193 right here. A very, very impressive move, I would say, since March. And let me just go ahead to explain what has happened since March, February, whereby we broke this very critical level that kind of like set off this rally over the past 2 to 3 months, right? You can see that this is the resistance level right over here. That was around the 155, 150 level, whereby we have been consolidating below since last year, August and September. Look at this, right? So this was pretty much a resistance we broke up, all right? We tested this level, which I'll come to talk about later, right? And we sold off and we broke down this support level. So that would be that $155. You can see that we were pretty much swinging up, down, tested, up, down, right? So 155 was what we call a very critical resistance level. And if we were to break above that level, that would kind of, start a new wave of upside, all right, and we can potentially start to hit higher. That's exactly what happened somewhere around middle of March, or end of March. You can see we broke this $155, and you can see that when it happened, right, the 20 days moving average, right, this 20 days moving average green line started to point up, and so it was like flattening. I can see there was somewhere in February, it was just like moving sideways, but somewhere around March, you can see that this green line started to point up, right, as it broke the 155 level, right? So that's where we can potentially see some signs of a short-term strength, in terms of the short-term trend starting to turn up. You can see since then, right, it was pretty much just hovering above the green line, right? So if prices is above the 20 days moving average, and of course this green line is still pointing up, that is where we can still see more strength, right? So all the way from like March, April, May. So I kind of like covered this in some of my members area for, we have this premium service called the Monthly Edge, and we actually shared this stock many times, right? And yeah, we broke this level, started to push up, and there were actually some upside targets that were drawn, right, all the way to this very critical level, right? And that would be that resistance, right? Just talk about the 180, right? 180, maybe even 185. You can see that was where we touched a couple of times since last year, right? Since last year, right? We kind of like sold off, and then we sold off again in August last year, all right? And yeah, a couple of times, and that was where some upside targets were drawn from 155 all the way to about that 180 level, right? So it seems like we have hit our target over the past 1 month, all right, and it has breached the target, and that's where potentially more upside can happen. So let's take a look at the trend again to see where we are right now and if there can be more upside. So let me see, let's take a look at this level right now. So as I mentioned, 180 was this very critical resistance level, whereby we actually attempted to break it just about 2-3 weeks back, and there was some selling that came back, which is normal because that was a level, as I mentioned, we have since selling over the past 1 year. We touched like 4 or 5 times and we just sold off. So it's normal to see some selling. You could like take some profit if you've got in here like 140 or 150. It's good to lock in some profits. That's perfectly fine, right? But we were consolidating right below it for like 1 or 2 weeks, and then we attempted to break this 180 to 185 resistance level. So that is a good thing, right? That's a good thing. And you can see that right now, this 20 days moving average, the green line, right, which has been pointing up since March, as I mentioned, when we broke the 155, it's been pointing up. Right now, this green line, the 20 days moving average, is it still pointing up? Yes, right. I mean, it's still pointing up right now. You can see that prices is still above the 20 days moving average. So in terms of the short-term trend, I think the fact that we have gone above that 180, 185 level, we can potentially still see more strength, right? So the question will be to where, right? Where can we start to see some selling again, right? So for Apple, you can see we are pretty much at an all-time high, all right? So there's not much we can see in terms of the resistance from past prices. So what we can do is to kind of like, look at psychological levels. I would say that 200 would be kind of like a next resistance level that we can potentially hit to, right, before some selling can happen again, all the way maybe about 200. I think 200 would be a near-term resistance level, whereby we might just consolidate a little bit, maybe from like 190, 200 a little bit, and maybe see some sideways movement before even attempting to break 200 to hit even higher, right? But for this stock right now, I think that we have pretty much gone into what we call an ideal uptrend, right? Just by looking at the 20 days moving average, as I mentioned, but not just the 20 days short-term moving average. What about the longer-term trend, right? The mid to long-term trend, right? And that's where we want to focus on the 100 days moving average and the 200 days moving average. So what would that be? Well, that would be the red line. The red line is none other than the 100 days moving average. You can see that this red line, right, somewhere around like May, it took a little bit longer. I mean, the green line was already pointing up prices above it, but for the red and blue line, it's a bit of a mid to long-term moving average. It reacts a little bit more slowly, right? But since about last month or 1 or 2 months back, you can see that the 100 days moving average has crossed up above the blue line, above the 200 days moving average, right? So that is a sign of strength, right? That's a sign of strength. That is where potentially the trend has turned from a little bit of like down. You can see right over here, it was a very good uptrend for Apple. I mean, since like 2020, of course, after COVID, we saw a really good rally from like $70-$80 all the way to like 180. You can see the red and blue line were pretty much pointing up, but somewhere around like beginning of last year, when the tech sector was not doing well, inflationary pressures, we have rate hikes and all that, we see stocks like this coming down a little bit, some consolidating sideways, and that's what has happened for Apple. It was just pretty much going down a little bit. We found some support about 130, so a bit of sideways movement, not really a downtrend, but a bit of a sideways movement as it consolidated, right? But now we can see that the red line right over here, it was like, it crossed below. That was like, mid of 2022. But right now, a year later, all right, this is what we're seeing right now. The red line has managed to go above the blue line. So that's a sign of, a trend change, right? From up, all right, in before 2022 to a bit of a down to sideways to now starting, all right, to turn up, right? Starting to turn up. And that is why I would say that we have turned into what we call a bit of an uptrend or uptrend right now for Apple, right? So anything above that 180 to 185, which is this level right here, it was kind of like a resistance. Now I've turned this to green line. It's a support level right now. So anything above 180 to 185, I think the trend looks quite good. We might just consolidate above, even attempt to break the 200, and if that happens, targets can be revised all the way to maybe 220 or 210. That is potentially what can happen, right? So this is Apple, one of the stocks that I like. We've covered many times. I think some of you might be loyal Apple fans, having iPhones and iPad and all that kind of thing. I'm not really an Apple, fan of using Apple products. I normally just use my normal Android phones and all that. But I think Apple is one of those companies whereby you can consider in terms of a longer term, fundamentally strong companies as well, and one of those that you can definitely put in your watch list for more upside, right? So let's take a look at this system that I have. I call it the 1GT system, one good trend. Basically, it's based on my one good trend strategy, right? So let's take a look at this system whereby we had some bullish and even bearish signals that have came out for Apple over the past 1 to 2 years, and see if there are any new signals that have came out as well. Alright, so this is Apple, right, AAPL, on my 1GT system, one good trade. So if you want to find a little bit more on like the system, you can attend one of the webinars in the future. Make sure you are on my email list. Just click on the link below. I'll give you the link to download my free trend trading report so that you can be on my email list. Alright, and we'll let you know if there are any webinars or trainings in the future whereby you can learn a little bit more on the entire strategy. Alright, and also the system, how we use a system to kind of guide us on entry and exit. And not only that, this also alerts us on just focus on a few good companies. All right, so this is Apple right here, and you can see that since last year we had a couple of bullish and bearish signals. So green arrow pointing up, one GT arrow pointing up. That's like a bullish signal, but you can see, I'll not go too far, but maybe somewhere around like last, you can see that was where you got a really good push somewhere in July, a green bullish signal, went all the way up from like about 150 to 180. As I mentioned, 180 was that resistance level. So yeah, we got an exit, started to see some selling. You can see right over here a few red bearish candles coming out, right, due to rate hikes and the Fed coming out and saying certain things. Market sold off. Of course, Apple sold off as well. You can see we sold off, got a red bullish signal, sold off. But let's take a look at somewhere around end of 2022, right? So we got this red bearish signal November, went all the way down. We got an exit, and look at this right over here, somewhere around like January 20th January 2023, right over here. And that's where we started having a new green arrow pointing up. That is a bullish signal, right? That's a bullish signal. You can see that started to push up. And the thing that you want to focus on will be the red bar, right? So the bar at the bottom is what we call a trend bar. So I think we talk about like the 100 days moving average, the 200 days moving average in terms of the trend and all that. So that's how you can look at the trend. But essentially we got this trend bar right here. It was red in color for like most part of 2022, but somewhere around beginning of 2023, you can see that the bar is turned from red to green in color. So it's not like just yesterday or last week that we got into an uptrend. In fact, since like February 2023, a few months back, there were already signs of the uptrend starting to form. And of course, we got this bullish signal already coming out in like January. All right, went out a little bit, consolidated, got a bearish signal, went down a few days, and then we got a new bullish signal right here on 6th of March. It went up from like 145 to 170. Another bullish signal went up, another bullish signal went up, and pretty much this is where we are right now. I think most recently we got this bullish signal on the 14th of June, right? 14th of June, this bullish signals we got this, and then we broke that 185, right? Remember 180, 185, that's like a temp resistance level. So we got this bullish signal 14th of June, started to push up. Now we are 193 points something, all right, 193 plus, and there are no exits right now. Of course, the trend still looks good. The bar is still green in color. As I mentioned, the 20 days moving average is still pointing up, prices above it still looks good in the short term as well, right? So yeah, this is the signal that I have. I want to show you guys the system that we have as well. So it still looks good. I mean, we'll see when an exit comes out, like the white arrow down will be an exit. So if there's like an exit, it just shows some profit taking can happen. You can also choose to take some profit. All right, and yeah, maybe we might push up a little bit to 200. If 200 breaks, we might even hit higher, and hopefully the exit signal comes out to guide us to get out or take some profit as well. All right, so this is what it says on my 1GT system for Apple. It looks good right now. We have a recent bullish signal with no exit. So if you want to learn more, as I say, this is just to show you guys a quick glimpse of the system that we are using. All right, but if you want to find out a bit more on this system and the framework or the entire strategy behind the system, attend one of those free webinars. I'll put the link below. You can download my free report, be on my email list, and then once the webinar is ready, we drop you an email to attend the free online webinar. All right, but you can learn a little bit more on how you can have access to this system and the entire strategy behind. Alright guys, so there we have it. That is Apple right here, one of the most popular US stocks that I get asked quite often on, and also the most heavily traded, the biggest market cap. A lot of people are talking about Apple and Google and Microsoft. These are some of the top market cap stocks, so I think Apple is one of them as well. So I thought, why not just cover it, since we saw some really good bullish actions over the past 1 to 2 months, right? But as I say, there could still potentially be more upside. It could just be at the beginning of a new phase of uptrend, from like to 200 to 250 to 300. That could potentially happen, right, as long as we stay above certain support levels along the way. Right now, as I say, 180, 185, anything above it, it looks good. Right, so I hope you like this video, guys. Joey here. Thank you so much for watching. Click on the link below to download this free trend trading report if you want to find out a bit more. All right, and I look forward to see you in one of my webinars. Take care.